Leadership commitments for intensive intervention work. We all know leaders play an integral role in systems change. Building a school or district's Tier 2 and 3 systems certainly is systems change. Years of successful and not so successful implementation have shown us what it means to be ready for this work, and we hope by sharing these lessons learned in advance with you that we will help your school or district be successful. The National Implementation Research Network, or NIRN, created a hexagon tool which is a visual depiction of what we know from research indicates readiness for and strong support for systems change. This video will organize our lessons learned around these 6 categories: need, evidence, fit, usability, capacity, and supports. In each of these categories, we will describe what ready looks like as well as not ready. The first readiness category is need. Need means that multiple data sources were disaggregated and analyzed, leading to a clear prioritization of this work. Community perception was also elicited and considered. Sounds like the school improvement team process, doesn't it? So what does it mean to be ready for intensive intervention work in the area of need? It looks like a district strategic plan that formally documents a goal to improve outcomes for struggling and complex learners. In line with that, a ready school will also have that goal in their school improvement plan, and building effective Tier 2 and 3 systems will be called out as school improvement work. So what does it look like to not be ready? This may be an area of need, but you won't see it documented in the district strategic plan or the school improvement plan. This means that it was not selected for improvement with stakeholder buy-in. This also means that other work will take priority for limited resources. The next category of readiness is evidence. When we are ready, we have the strength of research base showing that the solutions we've prioritized are effective at addressing the targeted need and for the targeted population. It's about doing what works. Intervention as we train in Tier 2 and Tier 3 on BridgeRI and database individualization are evidence-based, but what does it look like to be ready? When your school and district is ready for intensive intervention work, everyone leading the work, school, district level, understand the research base for the work and that this includes all students, including students with IEPs, and/or, even better, leaders will join staff and complete the same training. This is great for scale-up and leads to common language. These leaders will be able to educate others, for example, school committees, families, even their fellow administrators. Schools and districts who aren't ready show symptoms like the following statements. Some leaders saying that MTSS or interventions are not their job, while other leaders thinking they can just bring in trainers and don't have to understand it themselves. We call that drive-through training. Finally, leaders that aren't on the same page. Sometimes a special education administrator will say MTSS is a general education initiative and not their job, while the general education leadership will say that struggling learners, many of whom have IEPs, aren't their job. MTSS is everyone's job, and as you will see, to be ready, leaders need to own the work and be on the same page. The next area of readiness on the hexagon tool is fit. Fit means alignment with and impact on other initiatives has been considered with an eye to staff capacity. When we pay attention to fit, we ensure adequate time for training, coaching, implementation, and interactive cycles of improvement. Fit also includes how well the work jives with the existing school culture and community values. So what does fit look like? Well, because this work is in the district and school improvement plans, it will have allocated time, resources, and the staff that does the work will not be burdened with other initiatives at the same time. It's a priority. So lack of fit is the opposite. The work isn't formalized as a priority, so time and resources will likely be lacking, and even worse, the initiatives that are in those plans will take precedence, overstretching this team and making scaling up the work unsuccessful. A major lesson learned regarding fit is that a school should not do this work, Tier 2 and Tier 3, at the same time as adopting a new high-quality core curriculum in that area, reading, math, or behavior SEL. The next readiness area in the hexagon tool is capacity. Capacity means that we have the resources we need to implement. This includes people resources, material resources, time resources, implementation costs have been addressed. Being ready looks like having a coach who is identified from the start as responsible for scale-up. Though they have the support of the team and others, they are the person who will replicate the work with additional grade levels and buildings. The internal coach is selected because they have the right skills. Leadership commits to and addresses barriers to providing this person more time in the future as implementation progresses to coach others. At first, the coach trains with the rest of the team to learn. Then, after learning and implementing with technical assistance coaching support from Bridge RI, then this person goes on to replicate with other grade levels and other buildings, eventually district-wide. This coach role is in our Memorandum of Understanding for a reason. Capacity also means that there must be time for the Tier 3 child-by-child team to both train and implement while carrying on their business as usual job. That's a lot. We need to give these folks time and limit other asks. Finally, we need to ensure materials, valid and reliable screening and progress monitoring assessments, and intensive intervention resources are either available or purchased. So, not being ready in the area of capacity looks like nobody identified for the scale-up coach role, or there is someone identified, but that person has no time dedicated to actually doing the coaching role, and their previous responsibilities have not shifted to others. It's like they're a coach in name only, but there is no way for them to actually do the work. In these cases, often districts sign the MOU but just don't follow through on problem solving how to provide the time needed for coaching and scale up. Other ways we can lack readiness here include leaders not being on the same page regarding assessment tools, intervention platforms, etc. This can look like a stance of everything must be the core curriculum. Every tier of intervention, core. All assessments, core. Now we move from resource capacity to readiness capacity. Buy-in is intentionally built, starting with the why, starting small and piloting, communicating beyond the immediate implementers, and planning scale-up. This is what we know works from implementation research. Schools and districts that are ready build buy-in every step of the way and with all staff. General education, specialists, special educators, related service, and administration. Everyone. Everyone will learn what Tier 3 is, and that it isn't more of the core assessments and curriculum, and that screening and progress monitoring means something very specific in a multi-tiered system of supports. Readiness will be seeing a sample map, supporting its creation and use, with a commitment to shared responsibility across all roles. In ready schools, IEPs will use and embed valid and reliable screening and progress monitoring data when applicable, and specially designed instruction will occur in all tiers as we work towards a cohesive model of special education service delivery throughout tiered supports, not separate siloed systems. In contrast, not being ready looks like leaders who accidentally confuse staff by sending mixed messages, role confusion, lack of cohesion, issues like that don't get addressed by leadership. In these places, leadership does not hold the expectation that professionals will move forward together, allowing one or two lone people to undermine and even sabotage the work. Sometimes this also looks like leaders who cite lack of state guidance as a reason that they cannot move forward. Returning to the hexagon tool, we now come to usability. Usability means that there is support for the adaptation specific to this context. For example, the defining roles matter we talked about previously. When we are ready in usability, we commit to addressing implementation barriers as they arise. We relentlessly promote professional behavior, shared responsibility, and student-centered solutions orientation. To be ready to implement in your specific school and district context, we must address barriers as they arise. Job descriptions, contractual parameters, moving to an all-hands-on-deck culture, those are some of the many context-specific nuances that can arise as barriers to readiness. Not being ready looks like, or rather sounds like, a lot of, that's not my job. I only work with these kids. Those kids are served over there, not here. That child has an IEP, so I don't work with them. From the special ed side, we may hear service needs to be delivered by a special educator, perpetuating a separate system. The final area of the hexagon tool is supports. To be ready means having and sustaining staff, including leadership, a coach, assessment and implementation. Also, having a buy-in building process that's operationalized for families and staff. Success is likely when you have all the training you need for new staff and scale-up available free on BridgeRI. When you have team support, like our model builds, and when you retain consistent leadership, both administrative and the coach. Lack of readiness, on the other hand, is when the principal and district leadership turn over. This sets back support for the work many steps. Every time we lose a key leader, the team remains in wait while we have to educate, establish buy-in, and hopefully continue moving forward with a new administrator eventually. Another thing that shows lack of readiness for this work is not defining a coach. So in summary, we want you and your staff to be successful. We want our time together to produce the outcome you are looking for. To help us make that a reality, please ensure intensive intervention is in your district strategic plan and school improvement plan. Invest in learning the research base and showing evidence that you are on the same page with other leaders and walking the walk. Ensure that there is a plan for who will coach Scale Up, an internal coach, per the MOU. And finally, commit to addressing common leadership barriers proactively and collaboratively between special education leadership and general education leadership.